Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angela Cavanaugh, the Executive Director of the New Jersey Chapter of CAI, and I'd like to welcome all of you today for joining us, and also our ultimate partners, the Board of Directors, and the CI team for today's program. We have a Wednesday webinars going through for a few months now. We have the next one on May 5th featuring Phil Wallach speaking on COVID-related issues and the workers in the workplace, and the Falcon Group on reserves and aging infrastructure. Some housekeeping rules. Today, all participants will be muted. Please type your questions into the question box and please be sure to name the panelists that you would like the question directed to. Managers, if you need a certificate for credits, please email Jennifer at jennifer@cainj.org. And just to note that you must be on the webinar for the entire presentation in order to receive a certificate. I'd now like to turn it over to Robin.
Thanks, Angela. I'm Robin, membership manager for the chapter, and this is my friendly reminder to ensure that your memberships have not lapsed. So if you are coming up on your renewal date, please renew so you can keep taking advantage of the benefits that we have to offer. If your community or the community you manage is not yet a member of CAI New Jersey, please reach out to me directly. I left my email in the chat. You can also email me directly any board member updates. I'll be happy to take those back to national and make those adjustments. And as your boards change, please at any time you can reach out to me and I will be happy to add you to the roster and walk you through that process. We have so many exciting things coming up for 2021. Tomorrow, we are hosting our virtual speed event at noon. There is still time to register. So as a business partner, you can, and we request that you sponsor a manager so it remains an even one-on-one matchup. So you get to speed network with friendly faces and those that you haven't met yet. Our next Wednesday webinar, which Ange mentioned, will be on May 5th. And again, that is reserves and aging infrastructure presented by the Falcon Group. And then COVID-related issues and the workplace, employees, management staff, and vendors presented by Hill Wallach. So be sure to register for that ahead of time. Our LAC committee is also hosting a legislative roundtable discussion on Thursday, May 13th at noon. And that will be updating our membership on the status of pending legislation. So that is a discussion you absolutely do not want to miss. We also have our PAC Topgolf event on May 20th, and that is at the Topgolf in Edison. We are looking forward to our welcome back party. That is on Wednesday, May 26th from 4 to 7 at the Asbury Beer Garden. And due to capacity restrictions, this is a limited event. So the 2020 partners, exhibitors, and the first 100 homeowner or manager registration. So this is something that you don't want to wait on. You want to register early so you can be a part of that first 100 group. As we start to host in-person events, it's so important that your membership is in good standing. So again, all of these programs and more are being added to our calendar. So just be sure to check our website and you can register CAI-NJ.org. And I think that does it for now for me. So thank you, Ange.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, so today we have Tony Nardone from Corner Property Management speaking on board member meetings of the future and leveraging technology. And from Brown & Brown, speaking on the aches and pains when handling claims, we have Ryan Wiener and John Carone. So first off, we're going to have Tony. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Angela. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Today's presentation, I'm going to start off with a real short clip of, we're going to be talking about Zoom and Teams. I'm sure it's something that we're all very, very familiar with since you're all on this call. So with that, I'm going to share my screen here. A taste of what we've all been through. Oh, hang on. Hang on, Angela, I got to share a different screen. I have a couple screens open here. All right, sorry about that. You guys can see my cursor, right? Okay.
Yep, that looks good.
All right. So guys, today we're going to be talking about Zoom. That's a funny Saturday Night Live skit. You can certainly play the whole thing off of Zoom or off of YouTube rather. And it is quite funny. So let's talk about leveraging technology and what it looked like in the past, what it looks like today, and where we think we're going to be in the future. A lot of managers. I'm going to focus a lot of this on our managers. The old way is, managers would, have to race to a meeting. You'd have to, get there on time. You'd run in with your board packets or your agendas. And often you did that and there'd be, low or no turnout from residents. And then you'd have to listen to the board say, how come nobody comes to our meetings? They just weren't efficient at all. You'd have to rent a room, you'd pack into somebody's unit, you take folding chairs out of the closet. I'm sure we've all been there, and some of you are probably shaking your head. Yes, I've done all of that, and it's crazy. And how many of you, and I really can't see faces, but I'm sure many of you would be frustrated when the board members open the board packet for the very first time that night. And you throw your hands up in the air and you say, oh my God, why did I get this done 4 days ago, only for them to open it today and read it today? And it was frustrating. That was the past. I mean, that's unfortunately the reality for a large majority of us. COVID hit, as we all know, March of last year, and we quickly realized that we had to find a different way, and we had to do it pretty quick. And for some of us, I know us, we were using Zoom, about a year before that, and we were using Skype was pretty big back then. However, Teams and Zoom really have dominated the market from what I've seen. I can't tell you the last time I've been on a Skype call. A few other people, a few people use a few other different platforms, but these two seem to be the two most dominant. And most of our board members in our communities have adapted to this. I'm sure a large amount of people in this audience, whether they work for a management company, they're a homeowner, or they're a professional, have used one, if not both of these platforms, over the course of the last year. And, it's worked pretty well. I'm sure a lot of us have worked, longer hours. We can make the argument. I'm sure we're zoomed and teamed out, and we're looking forward to, the parties, the upcoming parties, just so we can socialize with our coworkers and our friends that we haven't seen other than through the cameras. So what is it, what are some of the pros of that? A little cartoon up there in the right-hand corner, I think is kind of funny. I ran across that, and when I knew I was speaking on it, I said, let me grab that, let me grab that cartoon for this. But, the pros are, Zoom, without a doubt, we're having shorter meetings. They're more direct, more to the point. And really what we're eliminating is we're eliminating all the small talk and chit chat and, opening the chairs and setting the tables up and just all of that nonsense. It's strictly business. For the managers, the managers, they're not burning out. You guys work, and I'll be the first to recognize all the managers in the room. You work long, hard hours. You have that gap between 5 and 7 o'clock that you're racing to a meeting. And then, we expect you to sit at a meeting and, hope that it's an hour, hour and a half, and it's not a marathon meeting. And then, you repeat the next day. And then you got to drive home. And, I understand, I've been doing it a long time, just like many of you out there. It takes a toll on you after a while. Having the Zoom meeting is great. You click off and by a show of hands, and I'll raise my hand, many times I have my nice shirt on and I got shorts and slippers on and nobody knows the difference. And I'm sure there's plenty of people here who are shaking their head now and said, yep, I've done that. But what's great, I shut the camera off and I go right into my kitchen and I'm home. So I'm literally home in 2 seconds. And the other pro of a Zoom meeting is, here at our company and what I've heard from some of my peers is a lot of the board workshops where the boards are just, talking. We're doing them between 12 and 1 on lunch hour because people have lives and they want to enjoy, being home at night. And we have some of our boards doing them between 5 and 6 p.m. They're not doing it to 7 or the 8 because mostly everybody's home. They're winding down for the day and they just want to get it done. They don't have to drive home and set up for the night meeting. So they're like, you know what? Let me just end my day. Let's have the board meeting between 5 and 6, and then we're done after that. So those have been some of the nice things that have come out of this. So what are we going to do post-COVID? Well, I put this in there, and again, I know I spoke to some of my peers, but we're going to offer renewals with no increase if communities utilize Zoom. We want to encourage people. For all the managers who work long and hard out there, if you don't have to go to in-person meetings after COVID, it's going to be a win for you. Or if we can reduce them, no more, 1 or 2 meetings a month, depending upon the community or the situation. Let's get our business done and stay home. We're still probably going to attend the annual meeting. That's probably still going to be important. People are going to want to, see people. So we do understand that, post-COVID, there's going to be 1, maybe 2 in-person meetings, per community. No employee burnout. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. We value, the managers. You guys, you have a lot on your backs and you work extremely hard for all of us. And we value that. And this would be a great way, leveraging technology in the future post-COVID, even though it would be nice to see people and we're going to get out, we don't want to let it get away from us. We really would love for you guys to, go back to your boards and your communities and have serious conversations with them and just keep the momentum going with Zoom so you can be more efficient and more effective. But more importantly, your quality of life will increase if you're not, driving all over, attending meetings. And again, that'll allow you to maintain your work-life balance. And like I said before, what better way to end a meeting than to, close your computer and walk in, and you're already home, walk into the next room and you're done for the night. So, that sums it up, but, I'll take questions on it, have an open conversation and discussion. If anyone has any questions.
There's a question, Tony. Can you give us a little more insight into the platform of Teams? I've only used Zoom.
Sure. So Teams is a Microsoft Office platform. For those who use Office 365, it's similar to Zoom, except the great thing now is if I pulled it up on my computer, I can ping, one of my coworkers. I can ping them, and they'll get a message, and they can literally, click a button, and we can interact just like we are now. There's no sending out links. There's no copy invitation, stick it in an email, text them, say, hey, check your email for the link. All right, give me a second, I'll be right there. It's none of that. Teams is like literally instant. It's almost like, I'm gonna show my age a little bit here, but it's almost like the old school days of AOL Instant Messenger, and you would like type something and it would be bing, and Teams works similar to that. Now I see Ryan and John shaking their head.
So then Teams works better for the office as opposed to Zoom more for the board meetings?
It does. It works great in the office environment. It works great. A lot of our communities have young professionals or professionals in general who also operate off of Teams. So we're able to ping people outside of our organization as well, if we need to have a conversation or discussion. It has a lot of the same flexibility that Zoom has. You have multiple people, you can screen share, you can pull things up on it, you can do funny backgrounds in the background. So it has a lot of the same functionality as Zoom. It's just that it's in one environment, and you're not just restricted to the employees inside your organization. Anyone who has an Office 365 product can utilize Teams. Download the app, you can get it on your phone, all that stuff.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. There are no other questions at this time, but if anyone does have questions, please put them into the question box and we'll definitely come back to Tony. Thanks, Tony.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay. All right, next we have Ryan John Carone. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And I laugh a little bit at the Teams thing, Angela, because I don't know who's on the call, and there might be some folks that I've worked with for a long time, and they're seeing John, wondering who John is. That's the reason why he's on the call. John was a member of Brown & Brown's team, but joined forces with me right as COVID hit last March, I believe. So I haven't had the ability to introduce him to anyone. So when folks are getting calls from him, they're wondering who's John Carone. We spend 9 to 10 hours a day on Teams together, sharing screen and staring at each other's face. So that's why I get a little bit of the chuckle out of the Teams thing, because that's our relationship at this point, which is really good, but also frustrating in some aspects. So we are going to talk about the claims process. I could, those that know me, I could probably talk about any topic for hours, but I could talk about this topic for literally days. It can go anywhere. We're not going to get that deep into the weeds here, or else everyone's going to get confused. Basically, I'm in the no big mistakes business, and I want my clients to feel the same way, right? And while I never want to jeopardize a loss ratio and just give artificial increased costs of premiums based on unnecessary reporting claims. On the other side, I need to make sure that we're properly protected, right? And there's nuances in insurance policies and wording in there that we rarely think about, but we have a duty as an insured to potentially put a claim in when a reasonably prudent person would. And if we don't follow that process, we could find ourselves in an uncovered situation. And I think we all realize in the COVID world, we're talking about ways to minimize the likelihood of paying out of pocket to defend against potential claims, right? And the last thing we want to do is pay out of pocket for an attorney to defend us out of a claim that otherwise would have been covered if we would have put it in timely, right? So we're just going to break out just the basic insurance policies where you could submit a claim, and when do we handle that, and how does it look like? Again, we're going to end on property, which is the hardest piece. And I'm going to give a basic numbers example so we understand it. But this is insurance claims is the emotional piece of the insurance process. You have unit owners that are frustrated. You have board members that are frustrated. You have money exchanging hands and getting to the right people, and sometimes getting to people that we don't think deserve it. And that becomes really, really emotional. And insurance, for those that aren't involved in it, are sometimes would be thought of as a frustrating thing that you don't want to know about. I mean, I don't know anything about fixing my car. I hate bringing my car in to get fixed. Whatever they tell me is the cost. I don't have any basis otherwise, and that's frustrating. If I had to take a computer to get fixed, I'd feel the same way. I don't know anything about that stuff. And most people have no idea about insurance, and it's not that tough. I promise. So just starting with, there's 4 basic policies that we're going to see claims in. Hopefully we don't see claims, but on one of them, the crime insurance, I hope we never have to talk about that, but unfortunately it happens sometimes. But general liability, direct and officer insurance, crime insurance, and property, okay? The most common is going to be the property claim, but we're going to end with that. All right. So we're going to start with general liability. A general liability policy in its very basic format is insuring a community association against 2 things: someone's physically injured or someone's property is damaged. All right. Well, in its most simplistic form, keep in mind, you have a slip and fall, or you have someone's property that's damaged and they are thinking or assuming or trying to prove that the association was legally liable for their injuries. So we hear it all the time. Hey, Ryan, I have a slip and fall and I need to report it. How do I handle that situation, right? In earlier days, I won't say the olden days, but in earlier days, the process of submitting claims to insurance companies for information purposes was popular. I mean, it would be like, hey, listen, I haven't gotten a formal suit, but such and such stood up at a board meeting and their kid was injured or their wife fell, and they just, want to make sure we know about it in case, they want to take some kind of action or have out-of-pocket expense or this or that and the other. And we'd submit the claim for info purposes only. There's no formal suit, and it would sit on your loss ratio, and then it would probably close at no payout, and it was no harm, no foul, right? When you have 6, 7, 8, 9 of those a year, you have a major problem. Frequency of reported claims in this business is way, way more difficult than one severe claim. And if you give me 2 prospects to help out, and one of them has 7 reported claims a year over 5 years, and that's 35 claims, and the total payout is 50 grand, and that's option 1, or you give me 1 fire that's $3 million payout on a total loss, I'm choosing the community with 1 loss, $3 million all day long. I can get them replacement insurance in 5 seconds. I can't on the community that has 35 reported claims, okay? So I bring this up because not only is it an issue, but it's also no longer able to be submitted for information purposes, meaning the moment you submit a claim to your insurance carrier, they have the right to settle the claim, number 1, and they certainly have the right to and will assign an adjuster to protect themselves and to protect the association. That adjuster will most likely reach out to the injured party or suggested injured party, and that injured party may have otherwise never thought about bringing action against the association, okay? At that point, maybe they see an opportunity to financially benefit, and a suit that could have been avoided might end up being a suit against the association, okay? Now, I'm bringing this up not as a way to tell potential people in our industry not to submit claims. That is not where I'm going with this. All I'm saying is that if there is a threat to sue, an attorney letter, a formal suit, the first step is send it to your insurance broker. We all know that. Someone shows up at a board meeting and it shows up in the minutes that they have a 9-month pregnant wife, and she fell down on a slippery condition at the mailbox. And if anything happens to her or their unborn child, and then the expletives follow, and we're going to sue you, right? If that happens, you're submitting an insurance claim, okay? Because it could show up in minutes. An insurance carrier down the road could have found out that now you're submitting it because a formal suit came during that 2-year period in which they can bring action. And the insurance carrier signs defense, and defense counsel realizes that you had this in writing from 18 months ago. Why didn't you submit it? An insurance company can deny coverage for failure to timely submit a claim. Okay, so submitting a general liability, slip and fall type situation or other bodily injury case needs to be sent in immediately. If there's any question about whether or not it should be sent to the carrier, you have to have that conversation with your insurance broker. Okay, now I'm setting this up for a different scenario that I'm going to follow with. We all know to submit when we get a formal suit, don't send it to your attorney and have them answer the complaint. Send it to your insurance broker first. Okay, but this is the scenario, that the reason why I'm bringing this up. If you hear that last Saturday a kid fell off of a bike and may have needed some medical attention, and an ambulance may have came on Saturday afternoon, but you have no idea who that person is, no one knows who that person is, what do? Don't submit a claim for information purposes only, because that's going to be a claim against you. And don't knock around the community. I don't mean to seem like I'm not caring. I'm just saying chasing and finding the person who may know information about this when no one has come forward, to me, doesn't seem like the right way to handle that situation. All right, knocking on doors, trying to find whose child it was, where they live in the development, so that you can submit an insurance claim when you're not required to at that point, would seem foolish to me, and would seem to be an unnecessary situation that you're just offering the potential to give an opportunity to collect from an insurance carrier for an association. That's the opinion that I have for claims from a general liability standpoint. If you get a formal suit, if you get a threat to sue in writing, if you get someone that's coming to a board meeting at open session complaining, that's going to show in the minutes, those are very clearly claims that need to be submitted to the carrier. Okay. Once it's submitted to the insurance company, you have very little control as an insured over how that's handled. Meaning the insurance company can do whatever they want and settle that claim for whatever amount of money they want without your, as the insured, blessing. You may think it's a bad precedent to set in the community to offer someone $100,000 because they slipped and fell in wet leaves. You might think that. And you may know that that individual works out at your gym, and you saw that individual 4 days later pumping some pretty heavy weights. If you don't make that information known when you submit the claim, you might find out that it's too late afterwards when the $100,000 goes out the door. Okay. So I tell you this, if there's managers on this call, when you're submitting information, if you want your insurance company to know a story about that scenario, tell the story day one, because you may never be given the opportunity to tell that story again. Okay. This is not like a creating fear situation. This is just, once you submit it, the insurance company doesn't always hold your hand so that you know what's going on. And they certainly don't hold the insurance broker's hand as well. There's no updates on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. It doesn't happen. So at that point, they're getting you out for as least amount as possible. And if you want them to know about something, you got to tell them. Okay. We live in a litigious society. Certainly in New Jersey, it's not any different. We have big payouts, and it's pretty easy to get 6-figure payouts in the insurance world for injuries. And we hope that we never have major injuries that need umbrellas, of course. But insurance companies, they will non-renew an insurance product after 4, 5, 6 liability claims that may be $10, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 each. They're certainly going to non-renew your association if you have a couple $100,000 claims back to back to back. Okay, so I don't want to crush the general liability piece, because there's other things we need to talk about that are equally important. But as a professional in this industry, and I know with management companies and individual managers, on this call, and even attorneys that might be on this call, the way to proactively mitigate potential large losses against your community, other than eliminate the hazards that you can see, is through insurance contracts, okay? Or through contracts with the vendors. I hear too often that communities and boards do not want to contact their attorney because it costs money. And as a result, you might decide to do things on your own. There's a reason why we suggest reviewing your contracts with your attorney, or at least sharing them with your insurance broker to read the language. The contract should give insurance protection, meaning when you hire a landscape company or a snow removal or a pool company that may or may not be giving ambassadors, let's say, you want to make sure that you're protected. We think that certificates of insurance are the way to do that. Certificates of insurance are a piece of paper. That's all they are. They're showing you what someone has at the time that they give you that piece of paper. The most important thing is that in a contract, there's indemnification wording. And in that indemnification wording, it needs to say that the vendor is providing not only insured status, but that they're indemnifying the association and holding them harmless. So what that basically says is that if the contractor is negligent for creating this bodily injury, that the association is indemnified and held harmless if it's the contractor's negligence or fault. Okay, so what that allows the community to do is, once someone brings suit against you and you submit it to your insurance company, that insurance company can bring the contractor's insurance as well on a contributory basis, which means that maybe a $200,000 payout or a $100,000 payout might only come $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 from the association, and a bigger chunk from the responsible party. That's really important. $40,000, $50,000 claims impact a community far less than $200,000 claims, believe me, when it comes to loss ratio. So review your contracts with your attorney, or at least have your insurance broker review the indemnification section of the contract. That's general liability. Okay. Sadly, that's the easiest piece of the puzzle. Direct and officer insurance is the crazy one. Those are, and direct and officer policies are $3,000 policies, $4,000 policies. You know, they're not $50,000 insurance policies. So you can have one claim, frivolous or not. The defense costs will far exceed your premiums paid, and that will throw some things off. But it's important on how to handle submitting direct and officer claims. Direct and officer claims, just for those on the call that might not know, it's not when someone's physically injured. It's not when someone's property's damaged. That's general liability. It's when someone is frustrated with a decision that's made that may be suggested to be mismanagement of the association, right? You won't let me use an amenity because I haven't paid my maintenance fees in 9 months. Or you won't let me have a 50-pound dog because it has to be under 35 pounds, but my dog is not a dog that's subject to those rules. My dog's an emotional support animal, and thus I don't have to abide by that under 35 pounds. Or I want my door frame storm door red, and you tell me it can't be red, and board president's building across the street has a red storm door. I mean, I'm using these as what seems to be ridiculous examples, but that's what they are. It could be the way you're challenging a board election. It could be challenging a vendor that was chosen for a reason other than great service. It could be anything. So direct and officer claims usually will start with a threat and then end up in a formal suit against the association. Okay. The moment that there is any threat in writing, any legal letter received from an attorney, that claim needs to go to your insurance broker and to your direct and officer policy immediately. You do not want to play games with a direct and officer policy. There is very clear language in every policy that has to do with timely reporting and pending and prior litigation. Okay. I don't even want to use the word the majority. I'm going to say every attorney that is involved with CAI in New Jersey knows this. And the moment that you submit a letter or a formal suit to your counsel, they're going to tell you that step one is to send it to your insurance broker, right? And I'm thankful that those people are part of our industry, because if we're working with one-off attorneys that may not be the ones that we see every day, we sadly will see an attorney handle what seems to be a small case that will turn into something bigger down the road. And now when we want to utilize insurance, it's too late. right? There's clear pending and prior litigation language in an insurance policy that says, if you try to handle it yourself and you're unsuccessful and you try to use insurance after the fact, we're out. You're done. Okay. So I'd hate for that to happen and have out-of-pocket expense to address those situations on the direct and officer side, but it's serious stuff. And the timing becomes super important on the direct and officer, more so even than the general liability piece, because the language, the exclusionary wording around timing in D&O policies is much stronger than in a general liability policy. Okay, so first call needs to be to your insurance broker, even if it's something as simple as you took an action against a unit owner because of failing to pay their maintenance fees, and that unit owner threatens a counterclaim against you and suggests that you're targeting them based on whatever it might be, sex, age, race, whatever it is. At that moment, you better submit that to your direct and officer carrier and to your agent to discuss the next steps. Okay, so that's direct and officer insurance. The third and the easiest that we're going to blow through is crime insurance. It's otherwise called a fidelity bond, employee dishonesty, or crime insurance. I hate focusing on this because the coverage is providing coverage for basically your finances, theft or embezzlement of your finances by a member of your board or management, right? I talk about this with every one of my clients at every one of our renewal presentations, and you have to dance around it a little bit because I know that the majority of our management companies that would be involved with our organization have really strong bookkeeping and accounting departments and dual check signing and all that fun stuff that we love to know. But there are those one-off situations where money gets commingled and all of a sudden double maintenance fees get booked on a monthly basis, or a board member has a individual card and all of a sudden ends up with a bunch of home improvements, and we need to collect that money from our insurance company, which you can under the crime insurance. The moment you hear it's happening, you submit the claim, call the police. A police report is going to have to be part of that. And that's how crime insurance works. Okay. As basic as you can get. Last, property insurance. And this is the one that is the most confusing, but I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. And I'm going to focus on a typical community association where we're attached dwelling community. If you live in a single family home or you manage a single family home community, you know that we're not insuring those freestanding homes. We might just be insuring as a community the clubhouse or other amenities. Maybe there's a gazebo, or maybe there's a front entrance gate for a guardhouse, right? But I want to focus on where we insure the dwelling. And the majority of community associations, when we insure attached dwelling communities with multiple units in the same building, we're insuring the building, including the unit's interior, back to the way it was originally constructed. That's the way that the majority of community associations are written for attached dwelling communities. And there's a deductible involved, and I don't want to get involved with like covered losses, what's covered and what's not. But let's just say that let's go back in time again for property insurance. 15 years ago, I'd say, a manager would get a call from a unit owner and say that they had water damage in their unit. And the manager would say, call your personal insurance carrier, and the unit owner would call whomever that is, let's say Allstate Insurance. Okay, and they'd call Allstate Insurance, and Allstate Insurance would pay the unit owner for their damage in their unit. And we would never hear from the unit owner, and that's awesome. Fast forward today, every personal insurance adjuster that does a bunch of business in the state of New Jersey realizes that there might be primary coverage under the association's policy. Not only might, but they know that there is primary coverage under the association's policy because the association's restoring the unit back to the way it was constructed and conveyed to the first owner, right? That's the reason why we're seeing trending higher deductibles, because associations don't want to get involved in small water damage claims. And that's great. There are certain things that unit owners are failing to maintain in their units as the community might age that are giving rise to water damage losses. I mean, hot water heaters, burst pipes in the walls, let's say a refrigeration line, an overflowed toilet, maybe the toilet was clear that it needed to be addressed because it was missing a flange or something and water was leaking and now it bursts, right? We cannot prevent a unit owner from accessing the insurance policy. So when it's a potential covered claim under the association's policy and Allstate comes back now and says, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Unit Owner, you better call your property manager and get a copy of the policy. we need to know what the association's contributing. You can't tell the unit owner that you're not going to submit the claim or that they're on their own when there is primary coverage. You have to get your insurance broker involved at that time, okay? Because this is not we versus they. It's not insurance broker, manager, and board member against unit owner. It doesn't work that way. We and they are the same. This is the unit owner's policy that they pay for through their maintenance fees, okay? And if there's covered insurance damage within their unit to original items that's over the association's deductible, you have to give them an opportunity to collect that money through the association's policy, okay? So what does that look like? In the most easy, simplistic example, someone's hot water heater bursts and causes $40,000 worth of damage in their unit. I'm only going to use one unit, not multiple units, because that's when it gets even more fun, and let's not get there today. $40,000 in damage in their unit that was original. They're the first owner and they haven't upgraded any of that unit, and now they have $40,000 worth of damage. They have a $10,000 deductible as an association. They put the claim into Allstate, and Allstate says there's $40,000 in damage. We're not giving you the $40,000 until we know what the association's insurance is doing. At that point, you have to contact your insurance broker, submit the claim, have an adjuster out there. Now, at this point, I guarantee you that the unit owner that has $40,000 worth of damage is frustrated. Potentially, that damage may have come from an adjacent unit, not even their fault. And how are they going to react to you as if you're a manager or to a contractor or to an insurance broker? They're going to demand that things happen quickly like that. Maybe it happened right before a holiday and they're having a bunch of people over in 2 weeks and they need their home fixed. You need to set realistic expectations day one, or else it will get really ugly really fast. Commercial insurance does not adjust a claim in a week. There is no adjuster that shows up with a check in 9 days. It doesn't happen that way, okay? Step one is make sure that the water is extracted from the unit if it's a water damage claim. Have the owner call one of the vendors that we're familiar with in our industry, give them a name if you need to extract the water and prevent further loss, okay? That's what you have to do, and then submit the claim to the association, have an adjuster go out and determine what the damage is. So in a simplistic $40,000 loss, Allstate comes back, we submit the claim to our carrier, adjuster goes out. Who pays what? Yes, 2 minutes, okay. Who pays what? Association's carrier pays 30 grand. Remember, I gave you the $10,000 deductible, 40,000 in damage. We get a check for 30 grand, okay? The unit owner's Allstate policy pays $9,500. The $10,000 responsibility minus the personal insurance deductible that unit owner has. And the unit owner pays their $500 deductible. So association's carrier, 30,000, Allstate, 9,500, unit owner, $500 deductible, association pays nothing. Okay, so in an interior water damage claim, that's the way it's going to work. That's the way it should work every time it's a covered claim. Obviously, if there's a common element involved, a fire, a roof, a car drives through a building, wind blows a portion of the siding off, we're not going to be able to pass that deductible off onto the unit owner's insurance. But in my example, it was an interior claim, and you will get the proceeds, give them to the unit owner if that's how you address it, and then the unit owner's on their own to fix their unit. Of course, the association would control the project if it's common element that was damaged, but in my example, it's damaged from inside the unit and it was just part of that unit. So the key here is involve your insurance broker. If you're working with myself or one of the other insurance brokers that's heavily involved in our industry, we all know who each other are. We see each other all the time. We're the best at what we do. And all we do is insurance for community associations, right? So everyone is capable of directing you appropriately from an insurance perspective. Utilize your insurance broker and speak to them and get the guidance from them. And just keep in mind, stay calm, try not to get overly emotional, and don't make any rash decisions until you know what your expectations are in terms of what's going to be paid for and what's not going to be paid for from a property claim perspective. I'm jamming it all in. I'm sorry, Angela, but
That's okay. A lot of information.
It's a lot. The key is no big mistakes. So don't assume anything and get the advice from your professional. Insurance brokers, we actually love to talk about this stuff. It's a lot more enjoyable claim scenarios than some of the things we've had to talk about consistently for the last 12 months. So.
Right. All right. I have a couple of questions for you, Ryan, and then other questions came in for you, Tony. So if you just want to hang tight, both of you. Ryan, first for you. Hold hold on one second. Do you find it hard for snow vendors to indemnify the associations in the contract?
Meaning, okay, I'm assuming it's meaning someone's having an issue where the contractor's fighting back to
Mhm.
not give you the appropriate wording that you need,
Correct.
right? And yes, I see it all the time. The number one thing that you want to make sure is that there's not reverse indemnification language, meaning at the time of loss, we submit the claim to our carrier, and our carrier, they'll call me, first of all, and they'll say, you know, your insured has reverse indemnification. And what that means is that we've signed a contract with a snow removal company, and it says that the association will indemnify and hold the snow removal company harmless. So now anytime there's a slip and fall and the snow removal company is named in the suit, association's policy is defending the snow removal company. That is worst case scenario. Okay. So in the end, if you had perfect language in your contract, maybe the snow removal company is a little bit hesitant. I see snow removal companies sign them all day long. If your particular one won't, you can just maybe work through that with your attorney on some things, maybe draft it so it's more precise to when the snow removal company is negligent in some capacity. But never do you want to have reverse indemnification. And more importantly than asking the question, have I ever seen snow removal companies have an issue with that? Yes, but I also see plenty of snow removal companies that are willing to engage in a contract like that. Happens, you know. So if someone's suggesting that they can't find a snow removal company that's agreeable to this, I can show you 10 of them.
Okay, great. Next question. What if the total damage is less than the deductible and the deductible is the owner's responsibility? Why would this be reported to the insurance company if there is no chance of recouping any money?
Oh, that's an awesome question. And the answer is it wouldn't be submitted to the insurance company. So what you should do is get your insurance broker involved, have them contact, the way we handle this, I would contact the Allstate adjuster. In that $10,000 example of a deductible, if there was only $4,000 worth of damage in that unit, we would never submit the claim to the association's insurance carrier. I would contact the adjuster from Allstate. They would say between the, you know, not to give shout outs to companies, but between the Serve Pro $2,000 mitigation bill and the reconstruction cost of $2,400, the total damage is $4,400. And the adjuster would say, well, what's the deductible? 10. I'd send them the declaration page showing 10,000. Allstate handles the 4,400. Association's carrier is never involved. So whoever asked that correct question, that's a great question. You should never submit the claim if you know that it has no chance of reaching the deductible. That's just your insurance broker talking to the HO6 personal insurance adjuster and making that go away. You do that 5 times a year and you eliminate 5 claims. You are doing a huge service to your community.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. A couple of questions for Tony. You ready?
Yep.
What are you finding the biggest challenges when using technology to host board meetings?
55 plus communities. I think the biggest challenge there is, in fact, we had it last night on a call that I was on where some individuals just struggle to get on, you know, Zoom, mostly Zoom, just their lack of expertise or their lack of understanding how the technology works. That's the frustrating part and the part that's driving it down.
Okay. And do you foresee hosting virtual going forward, or do you think they're going to come back to being in person?
I think there's going to be a hybrid. I honestly believe that you know, the communities are going to want to see representative in person at least once a year. I think there's going to be a huge advantage to using technology in the future. I know we're pushing it hard and we're offering our properties incentives for using technology. Again, it comes back to our biggest asset is our employees. And, you know, you have to be willing to go to bat for your employees. And if that means, you know, giving something back to the community to do that, then that's what we have to do to leverage technology. This is the way of the future for sure. We're here and it'd be silly to go backwards. We really have to embrace it and teach our communities how to use it effectively and efficiently so that it makes a better work environment for everybody.
Okay, let's see. I have another one for you. One second. I think that's it, Tony. That's it right now. If anyone else has anything for Tony, I do have one more for Ryan. Can you briefly talk about when board members threaten to sue the board?
When an
How to
active
handle
board,
that?
when an active board member is, yeah,
Board members, or I guess, or homeowners. Yep.
yeah, that's dicey, man. That's a
Well,
dicey one. But
sorry, that's a question that came from our audience. So
the most direct and officer policies are going to have an insured versus an insured exclusion in there, which is the problem, right? Named insured versus named insured, where, you know, one board member has an issue with another board member, and you potentially have a formal suit related to that. You could have an exclusion in your direct and officer policy related to
okay.
that. Those are scenarios where we almost wish we didn't know that they existed, right? You're like covering your ears. And if there's a way to make that situation more amicable, it will benefit you if you're thinking about it from an insurance perspective. There are certain things that you need to do, even if you don't agree with it, to prevent ugly situations. That would be one of them. That would be one of them. You don't want to have a hard stance with someone that and call their bluff. That's something that you try to be amicable about and make it go away for sure. Knowing that you could be having some defense costs out of pocket to address those situations, and you could have otherwise made that go away. Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan. You handled that one well.
Yep.
Good job.
Thank you. I think that's all we have. I just want to remind everyone, all the attendees today, that we will share our speaker contact information with everyone. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. And that's all we have. Gentlemen, do you have anything else to add?
No, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Ryan, it was great speaking, speaking with you.
Same here, Tony.
Great day. Stay dry here. The rain is coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Be well, everyone. Thank you.
Have a good rest of your week, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.